I bite at my nails until the skin around them bleeds. I find myself pulling at my hair, fidgeting with my jewelry. My mind can't decide where to focus. My thoughts are not linear. Sometimes I fixate on the fear of what's to come, and other times I focus on the euphoria of what comes after. I drum my fingers on the kitchen counter, look at my phone. I can't calm down. I listen, waiting to hear the screen door protest on its ancient hinges. Lindsay and I had got coffee yesterday, and she told me with just a hint of jealousy that her own sponsor was joining the flock today. At the service before mine, we aren't supposed to talk to any other members outside of church, but she and I do anyways, and have grown so close over the past few months. I wished her luck and offered my congratulations for her sponsor, told her I'd see her tonight, and then they are here for me. I shoved my phone into a drawer, no phones allowed in church. I climbed into the beat-up van. The pastor nods at me in greeting. They come to me each week and pick me up from this house that the church has provided to me. I wouldn't even know how to go about finding them otherwise. I am not the same person I was last week. This time next week, I will be different again. I know what to expect by now, after all these months. I don't need anyone to guide me. I slowly wade into the water. The cold hits me like a punch in the stomach. She glides towards me, her white eyes like orbs in the darkness. She seems more solid this time, stronger. She towers above me now and smells overpoweringly of something metallic. I wonder for the first time if I've made a huge mistake. And then I frantically try to clear the thought from my head, lest she find it. Even though this is why I'm here, some ancient prey part of my brain always screams at me to run at this point. She reaches for me using the long thin strands that make up what I would loosely define as her body, and pulls. She's definitely stronger than she was before, her mouth wider, her presence more discomforting. No matter how many times I've done this, I still hate this part. But I don't fight. I let her pull me in. The teeth always hurt. They are sharp and thin, like hundreds of small needles. But I am devout. I don't scream as I feel them tear at my flesh. I remain stoic as my eyes feel as if they are melting away. Then, she's in my head, and everything is amazing. The euphoria sets in. Lindsay wasn't here tonight. I wonder if she too joined the flock and became free. I used to go to church, a very different one, when I was much younger. There's honestly not much else to do in our tiny town. Church is our place to worship, where we go after school, the center of our social life. It's everything. When Mom got sick, I doubled down. I spent every moment I wasn't with her in church, praying, begging for a miracle. I was obsessed. I was supremely confident in my convictions up until the end. When I lost her, my faith followed not too long after. In my experience, when you lose something like that, it can be incredibly hard to find it again. I filled the void of my loss and all my newfound free time with other things, trying to find something, anything to either give me purpose or take the pain away. Like many in small town America, eventually, a different sort of addiction took me. Lindsay was the EMT that saved my life that particular night. She didn't talk down to me, she didn't patronize me. In fact, she told me she used to be just like me, until she found God. She told me how her church helped her overcome her addiction. She looked like an angel with her curly hair blue-black in the moonlight. As she helped me to a seated position, I was skeptical, but I agreed to go. The first time I met her, I was incredibly afraid. They had told me what to expect the first time on the way there, after they picked me up in the beat-up white van with the faded and unreadable logo. "She'll take your pain away, your suffering. In exchange, you would help her become whole. Once you were free from suffering, you join the rest of the flock that no longer needs to visit her. Once she becomes whole, all suffering in the world would end." It sounded like crazy stuff, but Lindsay looked at me from the seat next to me, beaming. I spent most of that drive fighting the nausea and aches that were slowly creeping back in, and staring out into the tunnel of tall, thin trees as we drove. Her congregation are the broken and suffering. Her church is a still, placid lake, an hour outside of town. It's so far off the road that the van rattles and shakes as we drive over rocks and twigs during the final portion of the drive. The first time I had entered the water up to my shoulders, I turned questioningly to my guides, to Lindsay. Our pastor held me in place in the water. For my own good, he said, if I ran from her, that would be the end, both of our agreement and my life. You must never disrespect her by running. When she approached me the first time, she seemed to be made up of thin threads of wispy black hair. She was a dark shadow with the suggestion of a head, the undeveloped beginning of arms and a partial torso, where the bottom half of her body should be, was instead made up of those thin inky strings. As she glided above the water, her two small white eyes met mine in the darkness. I had struggled against the hands holding me in place, my eyes wide with fear. When she embraced me, the first few moments were agony. The teeth, I'll never get used to the teeth. And for a brief moment, I could have sworn my eyes were gone. I was blind. I could feel the humid breeze against my wet, empty eye sockets before I felt them be forcefully invaded by the pressure of cold, wet tendrils. Then I was fine. Better than fine. She was gone. It was just the pastor, Lindsay, and I, standing in the calm water in the moonlit night. I was truly happy. My aches and nausea were gone. So was any urge to use. My eyes were still there. There wasn't a mark on me, despite how real it had felt when she was tearing at my flesh. Granted, I felt tired and weak, with a hint of a different type of emptiness. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I'd also just undergone an ordeal. I go to the church once a week. I feel weaker these days. It's funny, each time I see her, the feelings of peace and happiness fade quicker and quicker. But rather than misery, what rushes in to replace them is a sort of neutral emptiness. Sometimes I wonder if it's better than the alternative, especially considering the cost. But I'm in it now. No one leaves the church. When I got home after church, my phone was filled with missed calls and messages. They were all from Lindsay. The texts were rushed and jumbled. I've seen what happens. He died screaming. Stop her. The voicemails were garbled and totally unintelligible. Lindsay was always so devout that her words carried an even greater weight, especially what I had witnessed that night. I haven't heard from Lindsay since, and her phone appears to be off. I'm picturing now what it would be like to die slowly in agony, but there is nothing afterwards, no becoming whole again. I don't want that for me or anyone else. I don't know what to do. My home is owned by the church. I have no car, no family, no place to go. I found God and she changed my life. Now, I have a few days to plan, but I don't even know where to begin.